Welcome, friends, to Farm Fresh Designs 59. Do you love French country? Do you love blue? Well, if you do, today you're in for a treat. We're going to begin with a thrifted cabinet door. My first coat of paint is Waverly's Steel Gray, and I'm not giving it full coverage at all. After it dries, then I go through and I dry brush Dixie Belle Drop Cloth. Now, this is not going to be a prominent color in the final product at all, but I like that it's a layered effect and it will show through in some spots when I'm finished. My final coat of paint is Dixie Belle Haint Blue. I know I've used this before in some of my videos, and I like the color a lot. It's a very pale blue, and I'm giving it mostly full coverage, but I want a lot of that gray to show through, especially in the corners. I like the layered effect because I want it to look like it's got some age on it. And then every once in a while, you can see that drop cloth showing through. So what do you think so far? Is this something that you would do, or would you prefer to go back and distress it later? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I am getting ready to put the IOD paint inlay. Now, the one that I'm using is the new summer release, and I'm going to try not to butcher the words, but I looked it up on Google, and it says that it's Trompe L'oeil Bleu. And it's a beautiful paint inlay that's got some blue floral medallions that you can put on the center of different pieces, and then it's got some just trim pieces that go along with it. So when you put a paint inlay down, you go ahead and paint the piece like what you want, and then you're going to need to put a second coat of paint down, and it has to be just enough. You don't want it to be too much or not too little. It's kind of like, with Goldilocks and the Three Bears, it needs to be just right. Now, I will tell you that when I finish it all up, because I'm going to have just a little bit of lines at the end of it, I go back and I dry brush gray around the edges of where I put that second coat of blue on. Now, this is the medallion. Isn't that just beautiful? And so when you lay it down, you want the grid lines to be facing you. And I use a brayer to brush it down. Now, yes, there's still going to be some wrinkles in it, but I'm okay with it. I used a paint inlay on one of my previous videos, and I still wasn't really comfortable with it. But I decided I was just going to get over myself, and I was just going to do it. And now that I've finished with this one, I really do like it a lot. Now, I take my time with the brayer. I don't try to rush at all. And one of my viewers told me that, the inlay, the paper is a lot more durable than what you think. So not to worry when you put the brayer over it. Now, once I get the brayer all done and I'm happy with it, then you mist it lightly with water. And then I took a shop towel, which is something that's a little bit heavier than a paper towel, and I just kind of dabbed it on real easy to get any water that was still sitting on top of the inlay. You let it completely dry, mist it again, wait 30 seconds, and then peel it off slowly. So to keep you from having to watch that very slow process, I wanted to go ahead and show you now what I'm doing is I'm adding the trim pieces on the side. There's, I think, 3 different kind of trim pieces that they offer in this inlay set, and they're all beautiful, but the one that I'm putting on the side, and then I'm also going to be putting it on either ends, is the most narrow trim that they have. Now, it's sort of a faint design, but I'm okay with it. I really do like it. So this is a piece that you can hang, or you can turn it sideways. And what I did was I added some knobs on it, so you could hang it that way as possibly for a towel rack. My next piece is just a plain old lamp that I think I actually bought at Walmart a few years ago, and I used it in my office before I retired. But it's been sitting out in my stash, so I brought it in, and I painted it all white. And now what I'm decoupaging on it is a napkin. The napkin has a lot of florals on it, but on either end it has a trim piece. So most of the time we tear the napkin when we decoupage, but because I wanted this to be very exact, I cut this part of the napkin, and I'm decoupaging it down on the base with liquid patina. Now I saw another crafter take cellophane wrap and kind of press down on like a napkin very softly, and I love it. It keeps it from having so many wrinkles. So if you've never ever tried that before, definitely go try it. It really makes a difference. Now on 3 different parts of the base of the lamp, then what I do is then I tear off different florals that are on the napkin. And sometimes it gets a little tricky, and yes, I have to pull those napkins off and try again. Now this is just a plain lampshade, and all I did was I tore off a lot of the flowers individually, and I'm just decoupaging them all one at a time. And that's okay. And I really wasn't sure if I wanted a lot or a little, but the more I put on it, the more I liked, but then I finally just stopped. So here's the final project, and I love it. What do you think? Did I put too many flowers on the lampshade? Did I overdo it? Oh no, I like it. Now, I know you have seen this piece before, and I told you I was going to bring it back, and yes, here it is. It's that scroll that I found at the thrift shop. Now, I have already painted it with Dixie Belle Dusty Blue, and I'm going to be using several different molds on it. They're all IOD molds on it. So let's talk about which ones I used. The very top medallion comes from the classic Elements piece. The little part that's hanging down up from it is part of one of the new molds called Dainty Flourishes, but I just wanted something to have hanging down. Now, what I'm putting in my mold right now comes from the Frames mold. And I love this mold. I've used it a lot of times. And let me just mention this to you. This is beautiful at Christmas time to make it out of resin and to decoupage maybe a Santa face in that middle part of the frame. It is gorgeous. I can promise you, you will love this mold. This is probably one of my favorites. They have, I think, 3 different frames in it. No, I'm sorry. They have 4 different frames in it. And it's probably my favorite of all my frame molds. And remember, you put in cornstarch in the mold so that it won't stick. And I use the DOS air dry clay. Press it down against the micro rim, and then use a gift card or a credit card just to kind of smooth it out. Now that last part's not necessary, but that's what I always do. So now what I think I'm doing now is I am using the IOD Cameo mold. So you'll see this in a second. So I'll lay the frame mold down, and then I'm going to lay that Cameo mold onto that frame right in the middle, and it looks like a framed cameo. It's really, really pretty. So there's the frame, and I'm going to take the cameo out and lay that on top. Now I'm going to be gluing all of this down with Titebond glue. The next pieces come from the IOD Olive Crest mold, and it's the little swirly bigger pieces. And those little dainty pieces right in the middle come from that new mold called Dainty Flourishes. So I'm just layering different molds on it. And I actually, on this one particular project, I use 5 different molds. And that's not necessary at all because so many of the molds have different pieces. But just know that so many of the IOD molds just work so well together. And it really doesn't matter what you put with what because they always look beautiful. Now, I just noticed this in my video, but yes, my other phone that I don't tape with is sitting over to the side because I don't watch TV, and so when I'm crafting, I listen to other YouTubers and get great ideas from them, and so I actually forgot that it was sitting so close to me on the table. But I think I make 4 different pieces from that olive crest mold. 1 on either side up at the top, 1 on either side at the bottom, and then the very skinny pieces in the middle from the dainty flourishes. So what do you think? Do you like using air dry clay? And do you like using molds? I have so many molds, probably more than I care to admit, but I really like them. And I like all the different ones. And just remember, if you are wanting any molds and you don't want to invest in IOD molds, go to Hobby Lobby and get some of those cake molds that they use with fondant because they've got some really pretty designs and they have a lot of on Amazon. So if you want to start using molds and you kind of don't want to sink in any money into the IOD or the redesign with Prima, start out with using those cake fondant molds just to see if you like it. But now remember, once you put the clay in it, you could use it for fondant, but I don't think I would. But they clean up really well. And I do have some the cake fondant molds. But now I do order a lot of mine off of Amazon. And then there's also a lot of different other name brands. But you can go on Etsy and look up silicone molds. And you can find a gazillion different molds. And I think they're all so pretty. Now I'm going to finish it off with 2 pieces from the Dainty Flourishes. So that little part at the bottom is from the Dainty Flourishes. And then there's 1 more piece. Now look up at the top. See that little skinny part that hangs down? So now what I'm going to do is I'm using that same piece to add down to the bottom. And when I get it laid on there, the wider part at the bottom, I kind of cut it off. I lay it down just to see how much will go on there. And then I go ahead and cut that off with the credit card. That's just an easier way for me to do it. Plus, I've got it already in my hand already. So I know that I have used a lot of different molds on this today. And it's not necessary, but when I look at French Provincial, they are very elaborate. So what do you think? Would you use this many molds on it? Now, one of the things I did was I painted all the molds white. I put white wax on the blue, and then I added some gold gilding wax. Now, my next thing is just a regular old pot. I painted it white, and this is a transfer from one of the IOD transfers that's kind of a little bit older. I don't remember when it came out. But it's just called Traditional Pots, and it's got a lot of different labels in it. They have black labels, they have some white labels, and they have this blue label. And honestly, I believe this is the first blue label in the set that I've used. And I just kind of roll it over really easy, and it goes on really well. But I painted it with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and then I sealed it first before I put that transfer on. And it's just a plain little pot, but it goes along with the French country. So what do you think? Now, I will seal it again. I probably won't put a live plant in it because, well, I'm not good with live plants. I will either put it in my vendor booth or I'll give it to my mom so she can probably put African violet in it because she's really good at growing those. And remember when you put the transfer on to go back over it with that plastic and kind of burnish it on. Now my last piece is just, oh, there it is. Okay, my last little piece is just like a little wall pocket. You could use it for your mail, painted it white, and this is a napkin. Now at the bottom part I used a lot of the napkin and I didn't tear it, but there's pieces up at the top that I'm adding to it. It's just some floral parts. And then right on the inside of it, up at the top, I use one little mold from the IOD Rosettes mold, and I paint it white, and then I go back over it with some gold gilding wax just to add a little bit of interest to it. And this is just that napkin. It's actually one of those small cocktail napkins, and it is beautiful. It's got birds on it and florals, and I think it has a little bit of script on it, but isn't this just so pretty? Now, with my video today, most of them were in that darker blue, except for the scroll piece, which was in more of a dusty blue. So what do you think? Do you like French Provincial? Do you like blue? And what project did I do today that was your favorite? I think I really like that lamp a lot. My mom has in her breakfast room, it's in blue and yellow. And so I'm wondering when she sees it if she's going to want it. And I'm just putting it on real easy and using my cellophane wrap to kind of press it down real easy. And then up at the top, I'm going to just use a hand sander to kind of sand off that extra part. And this is the IOD little mold that I'm going to use that comes from the rosette. Now on this particular mold, there's a lot of different sizes and different flowers, and it's really pretty, and it's really neat to add to something else. So I've got a video coming out Thursday, and I think I might be using one of those, but I'm going to use it in resin. So make sure you watch for that. And here's the finished piece. So here we go. Here's our vignette. So look at that lamp. Isn't that just gorgeous? What do you think? Did I go overboard on the lampshade? I kind of wondered when I was doing it. I started out little, and I was trying to make it like in not an oval shape, but not a really rounded shape. And the more I did, the more I liked it. And then I sometimes wasn't sure if I was doing too much. And this is that finished piece. So one of the things I want to tell you that my mom mentioned that I thought was great is that on this long piece that has the paint inlay, what you could do is you could actually hang this in the bathroom above your toilet. She said because in your bathroom above the toilet, it's really pretty to put pieces that are just about 3 to 4 inches above the tank, and you want it to be in the center of that commode, and it just adds so much to it. So when I was over at her house this morning, we kind of held it up against the wall above her commode, and it was beautiful. But I think I'm going to hang on to this because I want to use the other side for something else. So here's everything today. What's your favorite piece? Do you like a lot of molds or little molds? And do you like the darker blue or do you like the dusty blue a lot? So I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope that you're getting some value out of it and you're getting inspired to do some of these pieces. But I really enjoyed doing this, and I had a viewer actually send me a message that wanted something like this. So if you liked the video today, make sure that you give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And make sure to hit the notifications button so YouTube will let you know when I put up my next video. Thanks so much, friends. Have a wonderful day.